spelt, also known as dinkel wheat, or whole wheat, is a species of wheat cultivated since 5000 BCE. Spelt was an important staple in parts of Europe from the Bronze Age to medieval times. It now survives as a relict crop in Central Europe and northern Spain and has found a new market as a health food. Spelt is sometimes considered a subspecies of the closely related species common wheat, in which case its botanical name is considered to be Triticum aestivum subsp. Spelta. It is a hexaploid wheat, which means it has 6 sets of chromosomes. Evolution. Spelt has a complex history. It is a wheat species known from genetic evidence to have originated as a hybrid of a domesticated tetraploid wheat such as emmer wheat and the wild goat grass Aegilops torski. This hybridization must have taken place in the Near East because this is where E. torski grows, and it must have taken place before the appearance of bread wheat in the archaeological record c. 8,000 years ago. Genetic evidence shows that spelt wheat can also arise as the result of hybridization of bread wheat and emmer wheat, although only at some date following the initial Aegilops tetraploid wheat hybridization. The much later appearance of spelt in Europe might thus be the result of a later, second, hybridization between emmer and bread wheat. Recent DNA evidence supports an independent origin for European spelt through this hybridization. Whether spelt has 2 separate origins in Asia and Europe, or single origin in the Near East, is currently unresolved. Early history. The earliest archaeological evidence of spelt is from the 5th millennium BC in Transcaucasia, northeast of the Black Sea, though the most abundant and best documented archaeological evidence of spelt is in Europe. Remains of spelt have been found in some later Neolithic sites in Central Europe. During the Bronze Age, spelt spread widely in Central Europe. In the Iron Age, spelt became a principal wheat species in southern Germany and Switzerland. By 500 BC, it was in common use in southern Britain. References to the cultivation of spelt wheat in biblical times, in ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia and in ancient Greece are incorrect and result from confusion with emmer wheat. Later history. In the Middle Ages, spelt was cultivated in parts of Switzerland, Tyrol and Germany. Spelt was introduced to the United States in the 1890s. In the 20th century, spelt was replaced by bread wheat in almost all areas where it was still grown. The organic farming movement revived its popularity somewhat toward the end of the century, as spelt requires fewer fertilizers. Nutrition. Spelt contains about 57.9% carbohydrates, 17.0% protein and 3.0% fat, as well as dietary minerals and vitamins. As it contains a moderate amount of gluten, it is suitable for some baking. However, because spelt contains gluten, it is not suitable for people with celiac disease. In comparison to hard red winter wheat, spelt has a more soluble protein matrix characterized by a higher gliadin-glutenin ratio. Products. Spelt flour is becoming more easily available, being sold in British supermarkets for a number of years. Spelt pasta is also available in health food stores and specialty shops. Spelt bread is sold in health food shops and some bakeries in an increasing variety of types of loaf, similar in color to light rye breads but usually with a slightly sweet and nutty flavor. Biscuits, crackers, and pretzels are also produced, but are more likely to be found in a specialty bakery or health food store than in a regular grocer's shop. Dutch Geneva makers distill with spelt. Beer brewed from spelt is sometimes seen in Bavaria and Belgium, and spelt is distilled to make vodka in Poland and elsewhere. Flour from sprouted spelt grains is increasingly available throughout North America in grocery and health food stores. In Germany, spelt loaves and rolls are widely available in bakeries, as is spelt flour in supermarkets. The unripe spelt grains are dried and eaten as gra 1/4 nkern. Spelt is more expensive than modern wheats, first because it is a minority product, but also because it requires the extra stage of husk removal before milling. It makes a rather soft, light loaf with a very good flavor, and it is particularly good for flatbreads, because they can become crisp without being hard. Literary references. While today spelt is a specialty crop, its popularity as a peasant staple food of the past has been attested in literature. Although today's Russian-speaking children perhaps don't know exactly what pulba looks or tastes like, they may recognize the word as something or other that can be made into porridge, having heard Pushkin's well-rhymed story in which the poor workman Balder asks his employer the priest to feed me boiled spelt. In Horace's Satire 2.6, which ends with the story of the country mouse and the city mouse, the country mouse eats spelt at dinner while serving his city guest finer foods. In the Divine Comedy of Dante Alighieri, Pietro dell'Avno appears as a suicide in Circle 7, Ring Canto 13 of the Inferno. Pietro describes the fate awaiting souls guilty of suicide to Dante the Pilgrim and Virgil. According to Pietro, the soul of the suicide grows into a wild tree and is tormented by harpies that feast upon its leaves. Pietro likens the initial growth and transformation of the soul of the suicide to the germination of a grain of spelt. Spelt is also mentioned in the Bible. The seventh plague in Egypt reported in Exodus, chapter 9 was said not to have damaged the harvest of wheat and spelt, as these were late crops. Ezekiel 4:9 says, "Take thou also unto thee wheat, and barley, and beans, and lentils, and millet, and spelt, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread thereof." Though as noted above this is presumably a mistranslation and should be emmer. It is mentioned again in Isaiah 28:25. "And put in the wheat in rows and the barley in the appointed place and the spelt in the border thereof." See also, emmer, Khorasan wheat, farro, references, footnotes. Bibliography, Pagliossi, Stefano, Karl Hammer and J. Heller. Hulled wheats. Promoting the conservation and use of underutilized and neglected crops. 4. Proceedings of the First International Workshop on Hulled Wheats 21 July 22, 1995, Castelvecchio Pascoli, Tuscany, Italia, Zohary, Daniel and Maria Hopf. Domestication of Plants in the Old World. Oxford, Oxford University Press. ISBN A0-19-850356-3. External links, recipe, Tuscan spelt, recipe, 2,000-year-old bread from Pompeii with spelt, British Organic Spelt Farm, Sharpham Park.